ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिते नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna, welcome back. So today is the day 72 of our Bhagavad Gita learning series, and as we know, we are on chapter 10. So in our previous class, we started this chapter and completed the first section. So let me share the screen. Yes, and today we will be studying the second section of this chapter, that is Chatushloki Gita. It starts from verse number 8 until verse number 11. And why Chatushloki? Because in these 4 verses, the essence of Bhagavad Gita is hidden. And Bhagavan is very beautifully and in a very intelligent manner is revealing to Arjuna this essence. Now we see that the ultimate understanding of spiritual life is knowing the three tattvas, that is, the relationship with the Lord, that is our relationship with the Lord, which is known as Sambandha Tattva. And then the second is, after knowing this relationship, what is our duty or seva, service, that is known as Abhidheya Tattva. And the third is, what is the need of knowing this relationship, or what is the need of rendering devotional service, which is called Prayojana Tattva. So this is very wonderfully discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when the Lord Chaitanya and Sanatana Goswami discussing this highest spiritual wisdom. And we see here Bhagavan is revealing this highest spiritual wisdom in a very subtle way. And it can actually be understood by the pure devotees only. That we will understand while studying these verses. So verse number 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Synonyms: aham, I, sarvasya, of all, prabhavaha, the source of generation, mattaha, from me, sarvam, everything, pravartate, emanates, iti, thus, matva, knowing, bhajante, become devoted, mam, unto me, buddhaha, the learned, bhava samanvitaha, with great attention. Translation: I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this, engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So we see that these two lines of this 8th shloka, how the first line, aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate. So aham sarvasya prabhavaha means I am the source of everything. If we can remember, in the 7th chapter, in the beginning, 4th, 5th verses, we studied about how all the material energy and the spiritual energy, that is Aparaprakriti and Paraprakriti, are deriving from the Lord only. And in the 7th verse of chapter 7, we also learned a very similar verse. That is, Mattah parataram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana iva. So everything is situated in me, just like the pearls are strung on the thread to create a necklace. So how the spiritual and the material energy both are emanating from the Lord, that is described here in the first line. And as we just said, in the 7th chapter, we came to know the Lord as Sarva Karana Karanam, that is the cause of all causes. Paramasatyam, that is the supreme, as the supreme truth. Sarva Vyapakam, that is all pervading. Matta Sarvam Pravartate, or Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. So the same things you see, just try to connect. And Akhila Saratvam, Akhila Saram, that is the essence of everything. Gunatita Parama Avyayam, that is the eternal transcendence. And Sarvagnya, that is the omniscient, all-knowing. So we see this is the sambandha of the creation, the whole creation with the Supreme Creator, or who is actually the cause of all causes. We discussed several times in our previous class also, we discussed. From chapter 7 only we are discussing on this topic. So, Sambandha Tattva is the relationship between the Supreme Lord and we, the Jivas, because only we, the human beings, can understand this relationship. Intellectually, it is not possible for the other animals or plants to know this, but the relationship is eternal and for everybody, for everything, rather we can say. Now we see this Sambandha Tattva is the first step of sadhana, because knowing him as the cause of all causes, one actually begins bhajana in pure devotional service. And here we see, here the jivas can utilize their limited free will, Ichha Shakti, which Lord has given us. So we may or may not utilize this for this cause. So we see, just take an example. So when we know that our parents are the cause of our origin, and that since our childhood they have done so much for us, when we grow up, we naturally feel the urge to serve them. So we see, in the similar manner, knowing Bhagavan as the source of everything, as the cause of all causes, we must feel the urge to serve him. It is a very natural thing. It is nothing very unusual. It is quite obvious also. That is why Abhidheya Tattva, you see, duty, seva. And the second line says this, the second line and the next verse full, that we will discuss right now. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So, iti matva means knowing thus. Iti matva bhajante mam. So when a person gets this knowledge of the relationship between that jiva and Bhagavan, so then he starts bhajana. Bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. And he is Buddha, he is the most intelligent guy. And bhava samanvita, that is with great attention and devotion. And we will just discuss the next verse, then we will understand even more clearly. And prayojana tattva we will see in the next two verses, that is 10 and 11. That is the need of knowing the relationship and the need of rendering devotional service. As Bhagavan will say, Mam upayantite. So I just have given an outline of this tattva with these verses, but we will discuss it elaborately. So for this, let us move on to the next verse, that is verse number 9. And we see, as we have discussed many times for the past few classes about Bhagavan's being the source of everything and the cause of everything, so I am not discussing it again in this verse, in connection to this verse. So rather we are moving on to the next. Macchitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. Synonyms. Macchittaha, their minds fully engaged in me. Matgata pranaha, their lives devoted to me. Bodhayantaha, preaching. Parasparam, among themselves. Kathayantaha, talking. Cha, also. Mam, about me. Nityam, perpetually. Tushyanti, become pleased. Cha, also. Ramanti, enjoy transcendental bliss. Cha, also. Translation. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Dadati pratigrihnati guhyamakhyati prichyati, as we studied in Upadashamrita also. So we see this 9th verse, both the lines, that is the whole verse, it also reveals the abhidheya tattva, that is the characteristics of the pure devotees, how they act, their actions, their nature. So in this connection, I would like to read a portion from this purport. Pure devotees, whose characteristics are mentioned here, engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees, that is, discussing Krishna with other devotees. In the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself, and in the mature stage, they are actually situated in love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of the living entity. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them there are a few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get the chance to understand devotional service. This devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if it goes on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that seed fructifies. Just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering, so this japa is like regular watering of that seed. The spiritual plant of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahma Jyoti effulgence in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky also, that plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Goloka Vrindavana, the supreme planet of Krishna. Ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as a plant grows fruits and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits, and the watering process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. This plant of devotional service is fully described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 19 as Bhakti Lata Bija. It is explained there that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in the love of God. Then he cannot live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as a fish cannot live without water. In such a state, the devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. In the Śrimad Bhagavatam is also full of such narrations about the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, the Śrimad Bhagavatam is very dear to the devotees. As stated in the Bhagavatam itself, Canto 12, Chapter 13, Verse 18, Śrimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. In this narration, there is nothing about material activities, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation, that is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Śrimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and his devotees is fully described. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness can take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literatures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association. So here it is described that the pleasure of talking with each other when a young couple is in love, that is the pleasure of Shravanam of Śrimad Bhagavatam, hearing Śrimad Bhagavatam for the pure devotees. So, and the analogy of fish and water also is so beautiful. So we see in this verse, that is 9, text 9, how Bhakta and Bhagavan are connected to each other. It is described. We see the first point we can get is they are unflinchingly thinking about the Lord. That is why Macchitta means their minds fully engaged in me. Chitta engaged in me. So, and it is only possible when the mind is unflinchingly thinking about the Lord. So the point is, they are unflinchingly thinking about the Lord. The second point is, their lives are fully dedicated in the service of the Lord. That is why Madgata Prana. So, entirely devoted to me. That is Madgata Prana. So, that is to the Lord. And the third point we get is deriving immense satisfaction, joy, and bliss from enlightening one another and conversing about the Lord. Bodhayantaha parasparam, that is enlightening each another, and kathayantascha, that is talking about the Lord. Nityam, always, constantly, tushyanticha ramanticha. They are extremely joyful and satisfied and peaceful. They take pleasure in doing so. So this is actually the Abhidheya Tattva. In these 3 lines, that is the second line of verse 8 and this entire verse. So then we will move on to the next 2 verses, which we will recite together and then we'll discuss. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Synonyms. Tesham, unto them, satatayuktanam, always engaged, bhajatam, in rendering devotional service, Priti Purvakam, in loving ecstasy, Dadami, I give, Buddhi Yogam, real intelligence, Tam, that, Yena, by which, Mam, unto me, Upayanti, come, Te, they. Translation. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And the next verse. Teshamevanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayamyatma bhavastho jnanadipena bhasvata. Synonyms. Tesham, for them, eva, certainly, anukampa artham, to show special mercy, aham, I, ajnanajam, due to ignorance, tamaha, darkness, nashayami, dispel, atma bhava, within their hearts, sthaha, situated, jnana, of knowledge, deepena, with the lamp, bhasvata, glowing. Translation. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So we see these 2 verses, as we just said, the prayojana tattva. So what is the prayojana? Mam upayanti te, that is in verse number 10. I'm not scrolling again. So Mam upayanti te, that is coming back to me. How? That is, these 2 verses are connected to each other. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam. So, tesham. So, unto them, what do I do? So, who are continuously engaged, satatayuktanam, in rendering loving devotional service unto me, I give them buddhi yoga, by which they can come back to me. Mam upayantite. Why do I do so? Because tesham eva anukampartham. Because I give special mercy to them. I am specially merciful to them. So out of that mercy, the feeling of this, I dispel all the darkness that is born of ignorance in their heart. I dispel off, and by the light of knowledge, I enlighten them with Him. So that is my way of acting with my devotees. So we see, here we can make certain points how the Lord is related with His Bhakta in this connection. See, the first point would be, He gives the devotee the required knowledge to understand and practice Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. So if we can remember, we studied about this Buddhi Yoga in chapter 2, second chapter, verse number 39. There we discussed elaborately about this Buddhi Yoga, and we give the reference of this verse also, so you can check it again. So Buddhi Yoga is that by which one can go back to the Lord. Mam upayantite. Come back to me, Bhagavan says. So that is Buddhi Yoga. So Buddhi Yoga is actually synonymous to Bhakti Yoga. So this is the process of constant engagement in the service of the Lord, a loving service of the Lord, devotional service of the Lord. And we see the second point is, the Lord expresses His special compassion and mercy upon His devotees. So the devotees are eligible for this special consideration, this special compassion and mercy. Third point is, Bhagavan, by dwelling in the heart, destroys the darkness born of ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge, jnana deepena, and illumines the heart and soul. So, in this way, the Bhagavan is related to his devotees. Now see, we know that as a Paramatma, Bhagavan is seated in everybody's heart, not only of the human beings. Then how is it that he dispels of the darkness and enlightens those few people only? Because as Bhagavan says, Tesham eva anukampartham. See, when in this material world also we see, when somebody is thinking about you constantly, and that is revealed in his behavior always, that person respects you a lot. He cares for you. He loves you. So definitely you feel like to reciprocate. As Bhagavan said, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyaham. So when you surrender completely, when we surrender completely, we dedicate our lives completely in His service, then definitely He will do the needful to remove all the darkness that can prevent us to be elevated spiritually. So that is His responsibility then. So we see some lessons we learn from this part. That is, number one, Buddhi Yoga helps one to become free from material bondage. Right? And second point is, one can get the special mercy of the Lord by engaging in Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Synonymous. Third point is, it's essential to get connected to proper Guru Parampara to attain the knowledge of understanding and practicing pure devotional service. Why? Because understanding the Shastras on your own, it is also possible if Bhagavan says that tesham eva anukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavastu jnana deepena bhasvata. But if it is so, then what is the process of getting that special mercy? So, see, as Bhagavan says that bhajana, and we discussed in the purport of verse number 9 also, that bhakti lata bija, that is, there is different stages of devotional service. Now, everybody is not situated in the highest platform, highest spiritual platform. So for the pure devotees, it is possible that the Lord Himself guides from within and dispels all his darkness immediately. But who are in the lower stage of bhakti, they need to get some support and guidance from a proper Guru Parampara, so that their engagement in the devotional service is on the right track. See, why? Because there is another point which is related to this, that is the philosophers underestimate the devotees. See why? Because devotion without knowledge is incomplete. What knowledge? That knowledge Bhagavan is giving here. That is the relationship between Bhakta and Bhagavan. This knowledge is required. Otherwise, if you don't know the Supreme Lord as the cause of all causes, then it will be a mere sentiment, so which is not accepted and by these philosophers. Actually, tar bakko kriya mudra bigge hona bujhayo. It is stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 23.29. So the actions and words of pure devotees is very, very difficult to understand. It is actually impossible to understand for the common people. So such pure devotee is always liberated, that is Nitya Mukta. And he will certainly go back to Godhead, Mam Upayantite, after leaving this material body. And he is beyond all mundane criticism. Sometimes the emotions that he feels within may be expressed in a manner which may not be acceptable by the philosophers. But as it is said, Tarbak ko kriya mudra bigge hona bujhayo. So, but on the other hand, it is also true, if the knowledge is not concrete, that is, if we don't understand the relationship with the Lord, then mere going to the temple and just following the rituals, it is just sentiment. That is why these are the two extreme points why the philosophers underestimate the devotees. It is from the devotee point of view also that they have not reached that platform, and it is from the philosopher point of view also, that is, they cannot even understand their actions and words. Okay, so the next point is Bhagavan is the source of all knowledge. So by worshipping him, knowledge can be acquired. So as Bhagavan is Sarvagnya, so in association with Bhagavan, we can also get that knowledge. He reveals, or just in contact with Bhagavan, we also become Buddha. And the next point is ignorance can be removed by devotional service, as it is said, Nashayami Atma Bhavasto Jnanadipena Bhasmata. And another point is there, that is, material knowledge is not required. So spiritual knowledge is something that is absolutely different from material knowledge. It is not at all essential to acquire the highest spiritual knowledge. A person may be illiterate also, but he can have this highest spiritual wisdom by the grace of the Lord and by the grace of Guru. And the last point is, one can become dear to the Lord by worshipping him with unalloyed devotion. That is why it is said, as we just mentioned, Yesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Tesham Evanugam Partham. So as he is always engaged in the loving devotional service, so this unalloyed devotion and worshipping, these are the causes of becoming dear to the Lord. We see there are some stimulating factors also that we can get from here. Stimulating factors, that is, which can stimulate bhakti. So the first stimulating factor is accepting a bona fide spiritual master. We are actually getting the lessons from here, from this part. Accepting a bona fide spiritual master can stimulate bhakti. Then a devotional service itself, that is with 9 limbs, from Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So all the 9 limbs, devotional service, Bhagavad Seva. It is a stimulating factor for bhakti. And the third is associating with the pure devotees. So we see bhakti is to be stimulated to reach the highest stage of perfection. Every day it should be stimulated. So that is why it is Chatushloki Gita, as the essence of the scripture is hidden in these 4 beautiful verses. And many of us definitely know that there is Chatushloki Bhagavatam also in 2nd canto of Śrimad Bhagavatam, where Brahmaji and Bhagavan is speaking to each other, and Bhagavan is actually revealing this to Brahmaji. And that is also for the pure devotees, to express the Param Bhavam, as it is mentioned in the previous chapter. Avajananti mam modha manushim tanum ashritam param bhavam ajanantu mama bhuta maheshwaram. So that param bhavam can only be known or understood by the pure devotees. Param bhavam. So that is why they can exchange the bhava. So that is why it is for the pure devotees, this and that Chatushloki. But there is another Chatushloki also. That Chatushloki is also from Śrimad Bhagavatam, where Bhagavan and Uddhava samvad, that is, but that Chatushloki is not for the pure devotees, rather it is for the Sakama Karmis and Jnanis. So with this, we have completed this section, Chatushloki Gita, from 10th chapter. So next day we will move on to the next section, that is 3rd section, Arjuna's prayers. वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining.